listening to Operation Self Reset with Jake Naraki. Now it's time to reset your life. What is going on, resetters, and welcome back to Operation Self Reset, the one and only place to change the person that you are right now to that person that you want to be. If you have that hero, that somebody that you look up to, and you want to be like them, you can do that. You can be that person. But the thing is, don't try to reach for what they have. Reach for the type of person that they are. That's the key. Because everybody goes, well, I want to be like Richard Branson and fly in my own airplane. Well, yeah, ideally, but what is his work ethic? What is his mindset? How is it, what does he do differently than you that he's able to fly in his own airplane? He's able to produce Virgin Cola and have it be a flop, but yet still continue to generate millions and billions of dollars. That's what you want. You don't want the materialistic things because those things can come and go in a flash. The thing is, if you want something, try to obtain something that is more difficult than the actual materialistic thing. We get wrapped up in the glitz and the glamour and the flair and the this and that. The key is what drives that person towards success. That's what you want. You don't want his cool suit. You don't want his big fat wallet full of cash. Maybe you do. I do. I'm guilty of it too. But that's not what's going to make you successful. What's going to make you successful is learning from Richard Branson or learning from whoever it may be that you look up to. That's going to be the game changer. That's going to be the difference maker. And that's what you can use to help reset, transform your life to that better person. And a gift from me to you guys for being great listeners. I worked out a little deal with Audible.com. If you guys don't know about that company, I really personally love it. I don't have a lot of time to be sitting down reading books anymore, so I do a lot of reading on the go. I hook it up to my iPhone, and I can listen to audiobooks anytime I want. If you guys head on over to audibletrial.com/OSR. You guys can get your free Reach for the Skies book from Richard Branson. I highly suggest it. When you guys sign on up, if you don't like the way it's formatted or if you just don't like Audible, you can cancel your service and also keep the book for free. You get a free Audible book, whatever it may be. If it's not Richard Branson, if it's Sam Walton, whoever it may be that's really inspiring to you, give it a try. audibletrial.com/OSR. Your first book is free. Before we jump into today's interview, I want to give you guys a little background on what's going on with me lately. As you guys know, I am taking a promotional exam, and that is coming up October 1st, very shortly, because today is September 11th. And instead of doing this podcast, I probably should be studying, but I'm providing content for you guys because I know you guys need it, and it also helps me get away from the books. Currently, there's over 6,000 pages that I need to know for this test. It's a very tough one, but you know what? It's something I know that will really benefit myself later in my career. And it's tough. It's tough to really give you guys a full realm of what's the studying been like because as you know, I have a new child. As I know you guys listening, there's obstacles that come up in your own life. And to set aside time to study, especially when it's just ridiculous amount of information, it's tough to really dial it in. I could sit here and give you guys the formula of what I did to study for this test, but I'm going to wait until I pass that sucker before I start handing out information, because how good is that information if I don't pass? So, and then it's kind of funny because then you think, well, Jake, I thought you're so positive thinking. And that's very true. Positive thinking is the way to go when it comes to taking tests, to believing in yourself, to achieving your personal goals that you set out, right? Because how good am I if I am studying there, if I'm sitting downstairs, I actually study in the basement to get away from everything, and I'm thinking while I'm sitting there reading the material, I'm not going to pass this, I'm not going to pass this, I'm not going to pass this. Well, what do you think is going to happen? Of course, I'm not going to pass it, right? Because my mind is not believing that my body and my mind are absorbing the information, right? So it's really a battle. It's really, truly a battle, not only when you're studying for exams or things that come up in your life, but it's a battle about improving yourself. So that's kind of where I'm going with this, is not only did I realize that when I'm studying, I have that chatter inside my head like, oh, dude, this is ridiculous. Oh my gosh, are you going to be able to remember this come, I call it game day, the test day, because it really is a performance-based exam. It's just like if you were playing basketball. Well, of course, you have to practice shooting the basketball to be good at it. And the same goes with taking an exam. You have to study the material constantly to really build it into your mind. So it's tough. It's really a battle that goes back and forth. And, you almost sometimes have to get yourself emotionally ready to sit down and capitalize on it, because my true passion is not studying for that thing. It's about doing this podcast. It's about giving you guys information. It's about connecting with you, answering emails, questions, all that stuff that you guys do for me that I want to help you guys. And it's tough to sit there in the basement all alone looking at a cinder block wall and going over 6,000 pages of material. It is difficult, but I will share my formula on how I did that when the time comes and stuff like that. But one thing I do want to share with you guys, what I do currently to prepare for the test, because the test is a couple of weeks away still. Every night before I go to bed, I am a big believer of just visualizing myself in that scenario. I truly, truly believe that if you are able to put your mind in places that your body has not been to, when that time comes that your body is in that location or in that event or in that moment, your body and mind are able to react better, quicker, safer, easier, and calmer. And that's what I'm trying to do with myself. I know where this test is going to be held at. I know the layout of the room. I know the people that are going to be taking it with me. I know what I'm probably going to be wearing. I know what I'm going to be holding and writing with. I really absorb every single sense that goes into this process. Now, it might sound ridiculous, and this might be your first time hearing this. You might be going, Jake, we know this stuff already, and it's so obvious. Yeah, visualizing yourself going through the motions will help you achieve greatness. But for the people that don't know, truly, give it a shot. If you have some event, obstacle, challenge, maybe you're doing the Tough Mudder, maybe you're going to go work out tomorrow morning and you know that it stinks and it's you don't have the motivation for it. Prepare yourself the night before. When you're trying to just doze off, think of walking through those doors. Think of the gym smell. Think of the guy or girl that might be helping you, or the routine that you're going to be doing. Or visualize yourself on that treadmill, watching the TV and, running at your pace, or whatever it may be. Visualize yourself. I'm telling you, there's so much power in that. And I actually have some personal stories that I really want to share with you guys when it comes to the topic of visualization. And I really believe that there's so much power within it. And it might sound hokey and, full of smoke and whatever, but I'm telling you though, if you have nothing else to fall back on, if you know you're studying, this is a personal moment. If you know you're studying, you're not the most studious person. You're not the person that does well on tests. I personally need every single little tidbit extra to try to do better. It's almost like cheating, but legal. I'm trying to do anything I personally can to set myself up for success. And that is what you guys can do also. I am telling you that if you have never tried visualization before, give it a shot. You will be surprised at the outcome. You really, though, have to absorb the senses, and you really have to dive deep, as in you're almost like a third person view. Think of it like this. Your son, daughter, or kid, or maybe yourself is playing those video games, those shooting video games. Most of the time, it's like from the first person shooter. So it's like your eyes are the screen. But sometimes it's like third person, where you're almost behind the animated person running around and doing crazy stuff, right? Think of it like that in the third person. You can see yourself sitting down. You can see yourself picking up the pen. You can see yourself turning the pages, and then you can see yourself scanning down the pages and looking at all the information, absorbing it, and feeling confident while you're doing it. I'm telling you, it's ridiculous. I can't wait to share all the information that I have on that great topic because I really believe it can help everybody in any situation. And in as simple as just waking up to a job that you don't care for, maybe it'll give you some little bit of more motivation, to get through that job or that task that may be scary to you or whatever it may be. I'm really actually excited to share that with you. Now that I'm saying that at 11:30 at night, I'm kind of all jacked up. Maybe I'll record that right after this episode. So today's episode, let's focus on today, or right now, episode 18, is with Joe Braidwood. And Joe is actually from London, England. He came over to United States because he is actually the marketing expert of SwiftKey. SwiftKey, for the Droid lovers out there, I'm personally a Mac user. Droid is, their keypad is kind of unique. You can actually put your thumb on one letter and drag it across a screen, and it's almost like a line. I'll show a line, and it'll capture all the letters, and it'll automatically input the letters that you dragged your finger across into a word. So instead of typing like traditional, it's more of a streamline approach to text messaging, emailing, searching, whatever it may be. Now, I didn't bring him on here because, I want to learn how to text faster. I want to learn how to text smoother and, get all the high aspects of this, is because Joe is a gentleman that has come over here from London into the entrepreneurial state/city/town of San Francisco. San Francisco, if you may know or do not know, is a big hub for entrepreneur success. I asked Joe a couple of questions relating to entrepreneurial mindset, but the bad thing is it didn't connect well. For some odd reason, my recording device on my computer wasn't up to par, or the internet speed was slow, whatever it may be, which is kind of funny because I'm talking to a guy in technology, but yet the technology I'm using is not working out too well. So regardless. So this is Joe Braidwood talking about entrepreneurs, talking about mindset, talking about depression actually in a younger generation and what he's trying to do to build that up, to help Americans and depression. It's actually a really cool interview, a guy that's kind of all over the place, just like any other entrepreneur. I hope you guys get some great value out of it. Like I said, because of the technical difficulties, I'm just going to slide on in to the first question. It got all jazzed up, so I apologize. I will try my best next time. Here we go. Joe Braidwood from SwiftKey, from London to America, living in San Francisco. Enjoy. Fear is a big thing because we talk about it on this podcast all the time, getting over fear. Now, obviously, there's different types of fears. There's fears of starting a business and failing. There's a fear of approaching a woman or a man. There's fears of just getting out of your house, meeting new people. The average person that doesn't, that's not interested in an entrepreneur mindset, that's not interested in technology, they use it, but it's not something that they deal with day in and day out. They're more of the blue-collar worker, the individual that may not like their new job or the job that they have, and they're looking of changing to a different one or going out on their own or trying to find themselves. What would you say to them for getting over their own personal fear as to knowing that the job that they're in is not a right fit for them? Do you have any suggestions?
I guess it's a tough one because there's so much breadth, and I think trying to find a common theme across context is you got to speak in very general terms. But I think that really the key to being successful in life is to have a sense of self-worth and self-belief, and to not be afraid to try. Trying doesn't always result in the outcomes that you think it will, but don't give up, because the second you give up, what's the point? If you're going to resign yourself to a job that doesn't inspire you and waste away in that role for the rest of your life, that's not something that anyone dreams about. And I think that really being able to try and figure out what it is that that drives you, that you're passionate about, and then trying to reflect that in your career and your work as well as in your personal life is so fundamental, because we spend I mean, I don't know what the statistics are, but I'm sure we could figure it out. You know, we spend an enormous amount of time in our working life.
Yeah.
You know, probably about half of all of our existence, and you know, it's super important that we love what we do and that we feel that when we're working towards something that we believe in. So, you know, that may sound excessively optimistic, and I'm not saying that everyone has this golden career ahead of them that is nothing but full of magic and dreams. But I think understanding what you're aspiring to and being able to really try and channel some of those aspirations into the things that you build and the kind of the careers that you take on.
You're exactly right.
Is really important, because that's
bring
what
it back around, saying that there's not, like you said, magic. That's going to pop up and hit you in the face and go, this is the direction you need to go. Being a part of SwiftKey, a great company. Been there for 3 years, and then you're the chief marketing operator over there. What are a couple of things that you have learned educationally? Also in your daily job that someone could use to their benefit when they're looking for a new job. You are part of marketing. You're part of getting out there and showing, the benefits, that overpower the negatives with this product. Can you relate any of that to, selling yourself, going for a job interview, and really telling the people to hire me instead of that guy? Is there anything off the top of your head that comes to you?
Well, I think that the most important strategic communication message that I've ever learned is that, talking about yourself and talking about your own agenda is never going to be as successful as understanding the agenda and the motivations of the person you're communicating to. So if you're in a job interview and you sit there going, I'm great because of X, I'm great because of Y, that is it's actually kind of not going to work to your advantage. What's going to work to your advantage is saying, look, I've seen what you guys are doing. I understand that you have a challenge around how you're going to take on this particular set of tasks, and what I'd love to do is work with you to solve those, and say it in the other person's terms. Because if you can give someone confidence that you understand the challenges that they have, and one of the things that I'm doing now more and more at the moment in my role is hiring people. And the people that come in front of me that talk about the challenges that we as a business face and how they want to help with those challenges and how they see some of the things they've done in the past as useful to trying to build and solve those things. Those are much, much, much more appealing people than the people that come in front of me and say, well, I went to school here and look at me, I did this job and I won this prize and I'm amazing and hire me, I'm just the best. So I think that's probably the most important thing, and you can apply that principle to pretty much everything in communication. Think in the other person's terms.
You know what? You can probably agree with me when I say this. There's individuals that we both know, and everybody that's listening to this, that we have those friends that it's all about them. It's all about me, and then you try to butt in and say, oh well, I did that too. They don't want to hear it. They're constantly always talking about themselves or whatever. So you're so right. Like what you just said. I mean, we can relate that in our daily life. Talk about, just almost have a conversation and just be open and understanding of where the company is, where they're trying to go, and you can relate that with your friends, your family, or whatever, and you can become more successful. Sure.
Yeah. But I think that's not to say that you should be playing down your own skills and your ability. I think what you need to understand is that be self-assured, know what you're good at, and know what you need to work on. But don't only talk about those things, and try and apply those things that you're proud of and that you think that you can bring to the table to the challenges of the business or the person that you're speaking to, because that's ultimately what's going to resonate, and that's ultimately what's going to be
now that's going to stand you apart from other candidates. You interact with other individuals, startups, CEOs, like we just talked about. When you talk to these people, is it passion that you feel is coming through when they're talking about their product? Are some of them cocky, as in like, I'm the guy that started this, hail me? What seems to be the recurring theme when it comes to talking to those individuals, and how does it affect you? Does it seem that some people come off passionate, but to you or to others it might sound cocky, and how can we how can we use this to our advantage? Sure.
I mean, it really depends who you're speaking to. There are a variety of different leadership styles. There's a variety of different entrepreneur successes. And, some of those folks have really managed to take their success and channel it for good. And others have really managed to take that success and ruin themselves with it. And I think you need to focus on the guys who are doing it right. And I suppose, when I speak to people who have become very successful, the ones that are the most inspiring and the ones that really stick in my mind and my memory are the ones that are doing it for a purpose, and who are doing it because of a broader vision and a mission that they have, rather than the ones who are doing it because they just want to make more money, or because they love the fame, or because it's all about making sure that you align your aspirations with something meaningful. And I think that that's extremely important, whether it's that you have a passion for building products, or whether it's that you have a passion for empowering people to change their lives, or whether it's that you have a passion for building amazing vehicles that get people from A to B in the most fuel efficient way. Whatever it is, having that passion is the key. And that's what really, I think, differentiates the kind of inspiring leaders from just
do you have a tip for somebody looking for the passion, how to find it? That's a tough question. I ask everybody that, and it's a loaded one. Do you have anything?
Yeah, well, I think I watched a talk recently that spoke about the different parts of your brain, and passion doesn't come from the rational part of your brain. It comes from the inner part of I think it's called your limbic core. It's the part of your brain that relates to emotion and feeling and love. And so the best way to know when that part of your brain is engaged is it's that gut feeling. That gut feeling comes from that same part of your brain. So you can't sit there with a spreadsheet or a matrix or a whiteboard type, sort of, writing down a ton of things and then figuring out some formula for success in terms of what your passion is. You just feel it. And if you don't feel it, then it's not there. And everyone knows, when you start comparing different ideas, which ones feel right in your gut. And I think that's how you really
Joe, you hit it on the head, man. That was actually really, really good response. That was awesome. The big thing when it comes to feeling that gut feeling, a lot of people go, oh, I feel it in my gut, but my mind is telling me one thing, my heart's telling me another. Do you go with your gut? Are you a guy that always goes with your gut because you know that or you heard that? I mean, or do you really just lay out the pluses and minuses to everything if you do have that gut feeling? Before going with your gut, do you kind of, this will work out, this won't work out, and then kind of, make sure, or how do you do it? Yeah.
You've got to have a blended approach. I think there's no like one size fits all way of making decisions and deciding what your strategy should be for life. But I think that what's really important is that you make sure you're thinking about the right options, and that's really a rational decision making process. Where do I want to be in 5 years? What do I know is not going to get me there? Eliminate those things from the table, and then when you're faced with some of the shortlisted approaches that you might want to take, then it really comes down to what feels right. Because if you don't feel invested in something at your core, then you're not going to put 100% into it, and so that's when it really gets down to making sure that it's something that you're passionate about.
Do you look up to anybody? Do you have kind of like
for.
a success board or anything that you have, like your top 5 people that just really inspire you daily or anything like that?
I mean, I do look up to a lot of people. I think I haven't had the opportunity to make that into any shrine or kind of inspiring destination in my day. That's not to say that's not a good idea if folks have time to do that. I've just been pretty busy recently, but I think what's important is to know. It's to sort of understand that the people that inspire you don't have to be idols. They don't have to be, people who have had books written about them. That you can be inspired by people all across the spectrum of your life, and that inspiration hits you, and you feel it when it does, and just making sure that you're tuning in to admiring the things that you value in others, whether it's people like your mom or dad, or whether it's people like your co-workers, or the mail guy, or whoever it is, that person that you see every morning with a latte crossing the road that's always smiling. If you find the people that give you that warmth and that give you that sense of purpose, then you'll know when you find them. I mean, a lot of people that really inspire me don't work in my industry. Funnily enough, they work in non-profits, and they work in jobs that require an enormous amount of effort, and that are sort of framed around trying to help others. Because I think that one of the most inspiring things anyone can do is help someone else without a monetary reason behind it. And so and that's why in some of the work that I did earlier in the year, looking at what can make people happier and what can make people flourish more, volunteering is such an important part of that puzzle. And it's something that really, I think, is worth pursuing if folks are looking for a greater sense of engagement with their community and feeling like they are giving back. If you can volunteer in your community, it gives you a great sense of knowing who those people that you live around are, what the issues that some of these people are facing, and how you yourself can put time and effort in to help them. Sadly, I don't spend enough time volunteering yet because I've been running around so much, but it's certainly very high on my list of personal, objectives, is I need to figure out how I'm going to volunteer more effectively to try and give something back. And I think that's
it's just
really
like one of those things, the more you give, the more you get. Now, is that something that was instilled in you as a younger guy, or is that something you just learned throughout your time?
I guess you just learn it. I've been pretty lucky in that I've always had, very loving parents, and my parents are still together, and the foundation that I had as a child was a very strong one around being committed to education, and my family would always make sure they had time to help people like me and my siblings with our homework and with all that kind of stuff. And so there's a kind of a learning that you get just through experience with stuff like that. But I'm not religious. It's not that I've ever sat in any kind of forum and been told this stuff and had it handed down. I think the best way to truly understand this stuff is to experience life and to be observant.
You're very good at speaking. You've been nailing these questions, and I really do appreciate you coming on here. Let's thank you. And let's change gears a little bit. You are very passionate when it comes to self-worth. We're talking about something that you are kind of working on currently, but you put on pause a little bit just because things really amped up on your side. Do you mind going into that a little bit?
Yeah. So basically, it's pretty simple. It's funny you asked me about my relocation to the Bay Area. One of the things that happens to everyone actually at some point or another is I was dating a girl and it didn't go so well, and it just it caught me off guard because it made me realize how vulnerable I was, and it got me thinking about vulnerability. And I was just thinking, well, hold on, if I've got all these other great things in my life, and I've got a job that I love and a family that cares about me and lots of really great friends, but still I feel so gutted by this relationship not working out, then there must be people all around me who are actually having a much harder time, because all it took was one girl to push back on me to really take the wind out of my sails for a little while, and actually how do people feel when they suffer great loss, or when they get when they're the subject of a nasty crime, or when they lose their home, and these sort of things can really derail you. And so what I started to do was to think about technology and the impact that technology has on these things. Because, in the US in particular, there's an extremely big problem with mental health, and it's something that I studied a little bit in my master's degree, but I never really followed up on it, which is that, that there's just not a concerted federal-wide program of care for people who have mental problems or who are struggling with their mental health. And as a result, there's an enormous amount of undiagnosed and undertreated people who are suffering in this country right now. And that's having an enormous impact on productivity. But it's also having an enormous impact on human happiness. And so one of the things that I thought was, well, I'm never gonna be able to change Washington. I'm never going to be able to encourage over 300 million Americans to get invested in a public program of mental health care, because this is just not the way that America works. So what I started to think about was, is there anything that I could do through technology to try and encourage people to lead more fulfilled, more engaged lives, and to try and make people more resilient? And so I actually began to explore this problem. And where I got to is that, a lot of psychology in its earliest kind of years was focused very much on corrective intervention. And the problem, that's extremely important for people who are very unwell. But one of the problems with corrective intervention in psychology is it puts you back to zero. It doesn't put you back to 100 or whatever it is that you feel fulfilled with. And so where I got to is this movement that started about a decade ago called the positive psychology movement, which is not about trying to engage in the negative things that people feel, but trying to engage in the positive things that people have at their fingertips and trying to embrace those positive things and give people a sense of being invested in. Because it's ultimately when you do that you grow from zero upwards rather than reset people back to zero. And so I started looking at the work of a guy called Martin Seligman, who founded that movement, and he talks about the flourishing life, and he has in his original theory 3 ideas, and in his developed theory that came out about a year and a half ago, 5 ideas about what it is that allows folks to flourish. And I can quickly summarize those. It's a number of things. So it's a personal relationships thing, so making sure that you have personal relationships that count. It's making sure that you're engaged in the things that you do in your life, the tasks that you do, making sure that when you do them, you have an ability to let time stand still because you're so engaged in what you're doing. It's having positive emotional experiences. So, whether that's going on beautiful walks or riding roller coasters or having a beer with your dad or whatever it is, having those positive experiences of life. And then it's doing things that you consider to be meaningful, and it's having a sense of accomplishment. So those are the sort of the 5 areas that he thinks tied together makes people happy, flourishing, and engaged in their lives. So I looked at those things and I thought, what is it that we can do with technology to try and encourage those 5 things? So, in terms of getting a sense of meaning, probably the best and the easiest single thing you can do is volunteer. In terms of building positive relationships with people, it's using technology to connect you with others, but then making sure you follow up and actually go and spend time with them. In terms of having positive experiences, I think we all know the answer to that. And one of the things you can do with technology is give people a sense of positive feedback about what they're doing. So this notion of like is a little dangerous, because if everything is a like economy on Facebook or whatever, you get into a situation where you're just striving for false verification. But if we can figure out ways to truly give positive feedback from one person to another about the things that they're doing in their life and what they mean to them, that gives you a real sense of positive emotion. So that was one idea around the use of technology. And then again, accomplishment. You may have heard of gamification. Gamification is this notion of giving people rewards for doing various things, and it's a big part of a lot of the games that you have on mobile. But also we're sort of applying that concept to education. We're applying that concept to workplace motivation. We're applying it to making people do various actions. And if we can gamify a lot of these things that we've just been talking about, you get a sense of accomplishment that shows that you're actually making progress in your life. So this was just like an open manifesto, and it's something that I delivered at this conference that I spoke at called MLove back in April. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done to refine these ideas. And what was great, though, about this sort of initial phase is that, a number of people came together after that talk and said, well, actually, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And there's a real sense of various members of the the psychology industry and the sort of technology industry coming together to try and think more benevolently about what we can do with technology to help people.
Now, are you thinking this will be a platform for like an app, or will it just be in everything? Will it be kind of, what's your ultimate goal or your vision of this?
Well, I think that what I did in some of my research is I figured out who needs help more than anyone. And actually, the people who are really sick with mental health problems already, I don't think we can do very much through technology alone to help them. They need interventions and they need medical care. But what did come out in the research was that there's a growing problem with young people right now, which is that young people, sort of ages 16 through 24, are the most susceptible to developing low-level anxiety or depression out of any demographic group. But they're also the least likely to seek conventional help. And that group of people is also the most likely to be embracing new technology, but also perhaps to be misusing new technology. So we've heard about cyberbullying as one example of that. So what I think probably the most tangible outcome from all of this is can we build a tool or a set of guidelines that actually better govern the way in which we as an industry, a technology industry, provide young people with access to social networks, access to ways to interact, in a way to incentivize the things that might actually elevate them, and to disincentivize the things that might result in these instances of depression and isolation and anxiety kicking in. And if we can do that, we'll see a really tangible outcome, which is that the suicide rate for young people will go down, the level of engagement will go up. Hopefully we'll see people succeeding more in their education, getting better jobs, getting into college where they might not otherwise. And I think that that's a really important piece, because then we're investing in our future, because the young people of today are the next generation's adults who are going to ultimately lead and be shaping the future of this nation and of the planet. So if we can try to solve this problem, at least do some things to put in place a better way to try and interact and prevent people from feeling isolated and depressed and anxious, and ultimately that's going to really have a big impact. So that was what I kind of came to as a sort of a straw man.
That sounds really amazing. I can see the benefits of it, like you said, the cyberbullying, and it's so easy nowadays for people to type something hurtful and mean, as opposed to the old school method of telling it to their face, so right.
Well, yeah, because there's no feedback loop when you type it. All of the things that evolutionarily we've grown to feel and to understand about each other are kind of divorced from that in digital engagement that you get through BBM or Facebook Messenger or whatever it is. So it's just so important that we try and put some accountability back in.
Oh, for sure.
And that's
now let's talk about kind of, all right, so you have this idea, you have this concept. Obviously, time for you is very precious. You don't have the time to put the effort into this. It sounds like a great idea. Other people are on board, or they would want to get involved, or after your little speech. And I truly, truly believe that this is huge. It's a really great idea, integrating technology with psychological health. How do you set up first of all, your time management? You are a very busy guy. How do you utilize your time? Obviously, I'm not looking for, I only eat 10 minutes for lunch, 10 minutes for dinner, but I'm looking for, when you dive into a task, do you kind of have it outlined before you dive into it, and how do you stay focused?
Well, isn't that the $64,000 question? Time management is the hardest part, because it's very easy to sit there at the beginning of your week and to go, okay, on Tuesday I'm going to do these 26 things, and on Wednesday I'm going to do these. But actually, being able to focus and being able to actually concentrate is the hardest currency in that whole process. Because if you sit at your desk with time ticking away, but you can't actually make any progress on something because you're just not feeling sharp enough, then you have to put it off. So really, I think it's something that everyone could do better, and it's something that no one will ever do perfectly. And I think really that the challenge is to try and use tools and try and use time management as effectively as you can. But really, the biggest challenge for someone when you get to sort of a certain level of engagement with your job and a certain level of responsibility is being able not to engage in the job, but being able to switch off. I think that's the hardest part, actually, because I could be in my office for 15 hours a day every day, and I still wouldn't get things done. So you've got to be able to step back and understand. Okay, well, I'm just not going to get this done. So instead, I'm going to try and hire someone to help me with this, or I'm just going to tell the person that has asked for it that it's just not possible. And managing expectations is super, super important. But also being able to compartmentalize the tasks that you work on to the extent that you can step away at the end of your day, switch off, and relax. And that's the real challenge. There's a variety of ways of managing your time and managing expectations around how you're going to use that time. But ultimately, I think that the real key to this whole piece is in being able to be comfortable that when you leave the office at the end of the day, you're able to switch off because you've been able to.
That's a very good point.
Do your
because,
best, and
I was just interviewing, Pat Flynn. He's kind of like a guy that talks about smart passive income on the internet. And one thing that he says is, how good am I to be thinking about my business? How good am I to be thinking about all my projects that I have in my head while I'm playing with my kid? While I'm, thinking about that, I'm missing out on, moments that I should be enjoying, and that can relate to if you have a family, you don't have a family, or whatever, just going for that walk instead of thinking to yourself, how am I going to handle that problem coming up? Maybe just enjoy the walk, separate yourself so it allows your battery to charge up, and then you can be able to tackle and get better focus the next day or whatever. But being one, you said a couple of tools that you use. Any I know you're a big technology guy. Anything that you use daily that you could share with us to kind of keep your task in order?
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
I use Asana, asana.com, with the team that we work here, which is a sort of a cloud-based team task management platform. It's actually, it's pretty good. One of the problems is you've got to really maintain it for it to be useful. But I think, anyone really, if they're operating solo, all you need is a piece of paper, or a notepad, and you've just got to be kind of. The important thing is to have a single destination for your tasks, because the second you have different lists and different demands pulling on you, then it stops working as a mechanism for managing your time. The other thing is I use Google Apps for Business across everything we do, and the calendar is actually brilliant because it allows me to throw things in for my day and stick to them, and it's very simple to have a single destination calendar, and I think that's a great way to manage your actual commitments.
Well, going off the Google Calendar, I mean, when you and I decided on having this interview, you threw it in your calendar. I got a response in my inbox, that you put it in your calendar, little notes or whatever. And then exactly at 1 o'clock today, you logged on, I accepted your request, and we started chatting. So, I agree with you. That obviously really works for you. Now, I'm a big Mac guy, and I use iCal, and I'm trying to integrate iCal with Google Calendars. And it's easy, but it's not the easiest thing because some things pull over, some things don't. So that's the only complication I have.
What I would recommend is using the Microsoft Exchange protocol for syncing Google accounts into Apple.
Sure.
Because it comes with push notifications and it syncs much better than just the classic Google login. So you can search for Google account exchange.
And last thing,
should give you some tips.
You're in an environment where it's hustle all the time. You have an active brain. Everything is going crazy. You're running around meeting people. And also you're a younger guy. How old are you, by the way? 28. Oh yeah, as am I. And
I'm 28.
And you're living a social lifestyle. In the evenings, not only are you going out and hanging out, but you're probably talking about business, other ideas. You're talking to like-minded individuals. How do you stay motivated? How do you keep on your game day after day? I mean, obviously, probably a big thing is you love what you do, so that really helps. But what else?
I think the most important thing is to know that you're not going to be on your game day to day every day. It's important that people recognize that quote unquote successful people are actually just regular folks trying their best, and sometimes you need a bit of time down. I'm going on vacation next week, for example, and I just can't wait because I've had a pretty insane work schedule the last few months, and just being able to switch off is so important. So I'm pretty pragmatic about it. I think I have a kind of a faith that what we're working on as a business is gonna really continue to disrupt the market, and that keeps me going. That kind of broad sense of where we're headed. And then it's just not being afraid to say, well, actually today I need to peace out because I'm tired, or because I've got something else on my mind. But yeah, I think if you're reasonable about it,
to go back,
kind
of one of the things you said, writing down, on a piece of paper, and I actually keep a notebook and pens all over the place, because when I know I'm in the zone and an idea comes to me, I could go into Evernote, I could go into my little notebook and type in the couple of notes or whatever. But as soon as I log on to that phone or that device, it's like going down the rabbit hole. I'm checking email, I'm looking here, I'm looking there. So it is really cool to hear that you use a pad of paper too, because the old school method is sometimes the best method, to keep you, you can still write down your ideas, but keep focused on your task, instead of going down that rabbit hole. But awesome, Joe. Any quotes that you really enjoy or do you want to share to wrap it up here?
Quotes. That's a good one. I can't think of any off the top of my head, because it's funny. Like I used to, when I was in school, I used to be obsessed with quotes, and then for the sort of the last few years, it's been just much more about just conversations. So
that's all right, no problem.
Not off the top of my head.
Hey man, it's been a true honor talking to you. I wish you nothing but success in the years to come. Really looking forward to hearing the progression of. Do you have a name for your application yet, or anything like that, or no? Okay, sure.
No, it's still very early days. But I mean, if people are interested in seeing what I spoke about at this conference, you can just Google. If you Google MLove, which is MLOVE, and then my name, Joe Braidwood, you can see there's a Vimeo video. Put that in the show notes. So that gives you a bit more context.
You guys can head over there and take a look at it on the website, or like Joe said, just go to the direct link. I will have all that in the notes on the website. So, Joe, thanks again, man. We will talk soon.
Cheers. And yeah, I guess the only other thing to say is if anyone has any ideas about some of the stuff that we've been talking about, feel free to get in touch with me. Probably the easiest method for that is over email. So it's joe@swiftkey.net. So that's SWIFTKEY.net.
Are you on? Are you on any other platforms or anything like that? Twitter?
And,
okay.
I'm on Twitter. Just Joe Braidwood is my name. Facebook, you name it. But yeah, and props to Jacob for putting together such a cool podcast series.
If you're wondering, no, I did not pay him money to say that. Thank you, Joe. That was very nice of you. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time coming on the podcast. That's awesome. Little insight from a startup company that turned big, SwiftKey. You guys can find it on Droid platforms. but not on the iPhone or Macintosh, because that is what I use, and I love it to death. But anyway, we can go the battle of Droid versus iPhone forever. There you guys go. If you guys have any comments or concerns, you guys want to get some more information about Joe or about the stuff that we talked about today, the links that were provided, head on over to operationselfreset.com/podcast number 18. So there you guys go. All the information in there. Also, too, on the homepage of operationselfreset.com, you guys can find a little sign-up box that will provide 7 tips for you guys to use right now that you can change instantly. A few things. You might be doing some of them already, but I guarantee there's at least 3 or 4 of them that would surprise you. So if you have a second, head on over to operationselfreset.com. Right there, smack dab in the center, is a little sign-up box. Sign on up. I'll be sending you guys some information. Also, too, if you have a second, please head on over to iTunes and give me a review if you haven't already. It is greatly appreciated. Every review helps this podcast generate more views from other people, so then they can put more reviews, and the roll of cheese keeps falling down the hill. What event is that where they throw the cheese down the hill and then they have all the people run down and try to chase the wheel of cheese? I forget what that is, but that sounds ridiculous. I don't know, but it looks hilarious, so I'll have to do that someday. So there you guys go. That is today's episode number 18, and I appreciate you guys and the support. If you guys have any questions or anything you want to get in contact with me, feel free to email me, support@operationselfreset.com. Please do. I'm telling you right now, as soon as this episode ends, email me. Whatever it is, a problem that's going on in your life, I will provide you with tips and tools that you can use to get a better handle on it. Thank you guys so much. And the last thing I want to end the podcast with is being grateful. When you guys wake on up tomorrow morning or the next day or the next or the next or next, be grateful for everything that you have. Be grateful for everything that's around you, for the people that you surround yourself with, the food you eat, the drive to and from work, even though you might hate it. Take that second, try to find the beauty in whatever it is. Be grateful to be alive. I mean, this world goes by, this life, goes by so fast. Enjoy it. Try to glimpse and pull in as much beauty as you can. Whatever it is, in nature, with friends, family, whatever it may be, just be grateful. As soon as your feet hit the floor off of bed, and just say, I'm grateful to be alive today. I'm telling you, it makes you feel good, and there's nothing better than starting the day on the right foot. So, even if you're a lefty. So take care, guys. We will catch you in podcast number 19. Until then, keep on resetting your lives towards the better you. Take care.